Good day to you. My name is Timothy Halloran. In these videos, we talk about the nature of the times. That is, what the heck is going on planet Earth these days. Exciting shifts going on, and congratulations on making it at least halfway through this most constipated, congested, intense, stormy lunation we have been in since our past new moon in Scorpio. So we are talking about a full moon that will be taking place in the sign of Taurus coming up this Friday on the 15th. That full moon is going to be just 1 degree from the planet Uranus. So the excitement is not finished. It's going to be an exciting culmination into the end of 2024. That can be for sure. But let us celebrate Pluto's movement from Capricorn into Aquarius officially on November 19th. This is a very, very big deal. And again, for my tuned in souls, I mean, this is seeing the absolute bottom of the barrel in regards to some of the most challenging aspects of life. And Saturn is one of the most challenging forces that exists and rules over the realm, such as bureaucracies, structures, negative reinforcement, these types of heavy pressures, duties, and responsibilities, which in many regards has affected our parents, their parents, generation after generation. Capricorn has been the central zodiac sign. Even through this Pisces age, there is a Capricorn undertone, which is this achievement-oriented, you better grab it, make it first, dog eat dog world. So as Pluto's been completing Capricorn these last few days, these last few weeks, there's this soul regurgitation, or there can be a completion in a significant way, which would deal with relationships with power figures, authority figures, for example. A change of the guard is certainly indicated by this Pluto leaving Capricorn and entering Aquarius. And for everyone who is undoubtedly going to be very upset throughout the United States election, let us bear that in mind, that though I cannot predict the future and not know which way the United States will take Pluto in Aquarius, what we do know for sure is it is not going to be as it was before. It's going to be a completely different presidency, even if we do see the same president sitting in office. So I did need to share that for all of those who may be truly suffering at this time, because we predicted this period, September, November 2024, was going to be a bit of a regression back to the medieval era. And there was going to be a regression back to the 2020 era. And we're not getting a waft of that time, are we not? That feeling, that fear, that apocalyptia, if that's a word. I'm sure it isn't, but it's a cool word. I'll make it up. You know what I mean. So, you know, a lot of these themes are coming up, but we're going to start to see a shift through the rest of this year. And I have a rather positive video for you today in regards to this full moon and the changes that are up around the corner. I think for the most part, we want to be patting ourselves on the back for having survived what we did in 2024. Now, at the beginning of 2024, I named this year a divine spark sets your soul on fire. And in the comments section, I'd be curious to hear, have you felt that spark set your soul on fire? And I did use that wording to be intense, that it would not be a painless initiation, but that something would spark or kick us into motion or push us back to life, even if it is crises, devastation, death, loss itself. Now, this full moon conjoins Uranus in Taurus. Uranus is not finished with Taurus, not till 2026. And Uranus's transit of Taurus is the most obvious indicator of an overhaul, economically speaking. This full moon speaks much to money. Now, Saturn stationing in a T-square between Mercury and Sagittarius and Jupiter, who is now retrograde in Gemini, I think is actually a tremendously... It's a rather philosophical T-square, you know. It's like Mercury opposite to Jupiter is asking all of these questions and can get all sorts of answers, actually, very solidly with this type of aspect. When I was talking about the circumstantial reality of Jupiter in Gemini, that's what we're talking about here. This Saturn station can make it very clear. It's like in this circumstance, it's this way. In this circumstance, it's this way. They may look very similar on the surface, just the same way people trying to buy insurance during open enrollment are trying to figure out which insurance plans to get, and they look almost identical, and yet they probably are completely different. That's kind of what we're looking at here, is that there's going to be some major downloads that can be received with this Saturn station. As much as it is a bit more of a critically thinking time this week, as we see Mercury will also station square to Saturn tomorrow, Tuesday the 12th. So, I mean, we're really mulling some things over, but there's some major changes that are occurring. Our business, money, relational dynamics. But the key here is that there's sort of this open gate through the rest of this year. There is momentum. And with Mars and Leo, pretty much through the end of the year, this is a time where we have more energy, we have more confidence. It is the time to push forward. It is the time to initiate. It is the time to call more attention to ourselves if we have felt like we've been on the back burner. It's the time to do what we want to. That, in a large way, has been the entire evolutionary lesson of the transiting moon's north node through Aries, which has been ongoing the last year and will complete at the end of this year. Okay, so we've been learning how to get selfish in 2024, which is really, it's been a very, very challenging process for many spiritual loving souls, because we've had to recognize differences, have we not? We've had to recognize where we all go our different ways. And it's going to be very, very interesting, because there's going to be a completely different movement at the end of this year, and especially as we get into springtime 2025, when we have our next set of eclipses in the Virgo-Pisces polarity. Now, Venus in Capricorn through the end of the year, this can also bring up all of these past dynamics in relationships that are outdated, that are old. There could be old past lovers that resurface. We can be reviewing the traditional relationships that we used to do things in the past. It's an interesting thing when we have a ruler of the South Node transit a sign, because at the same time, we can be enjoying more of a traditional style right now, and You know, we can really be enjoying getting into our social contribution. And where it is that's most important, and I should have said this earlier because we're at the 20-minute mark and people tune out much earlier than 20 minutes. But Venus is going to square the moon's nodes coming up this weekend, Saturday the 16th. And that really calls a need to us to really be receptive to one another, to really hear each other out. What are our needs? How can we support each other? You know, again, I use the analogy of the ship where it's like people have different roles on the ship. Some people manage the mast, some people manage the steering wheel, some people are below deck. It's similarly like really, really getting into business. And then the fact that the North Node ruler, Mars, is in Leo is just cutting forward. Let's go. Let's do it new. Let's do it differently. Let's initiate these new paths. It can be a very creative time. It's an excellent time to initiate new business ventures, but they're going to go through major adjustments in 2025. And one of the number one, I think, where people miss the point with astrology is when it comes to the things we want to do and whether or not it's the right time to do it. If you have the passion, the curiosity, the spark, and the excitement to do something, it's very important that you do that right now. That's the whole evolutionary learning lesson of the moon's north node in Aries. Many of us haven't even had the freedom to know what we want yet, because first we were the parents to our own parents, and then we found another lover early on, so that way we could take care of them as our own child too. And so this idea of freedom, like what? I get to do things for myself and I get to have selfish desires, and that's not wrong and that's not spiritual. No, it's not wrong. It's not spiritual. God has wanted us to find out what is that which is uniquely ours, our own way that nobody else can go, the thing that nobody else can do. That's a calling. That's a calling. We have to follow that calling. We cannot allow anyone or anything interfere with our own personal calling. In evolutionary astrology, we call Mars the leading edge of our soul's evolution, which means we must explore our soul's natural desires. We don't choose what our desires are. Desires, Mars, is all based on instincts. It all comes from the body. We have these magnetic attractions and repulsions. So we are learning how to create the open road to be free enough to find what excites us, to find what turns us on. And it's going to be unique and it's going to work only for us. And that is our special gift. That's something we've had to learn how to unlock, because many of us have merged in relationships or lost ourselves to another person, and then all sorts of weird pathologies start to form, and it is possible for us to lose our soul to another person through the pathology of codependency, narcissism, codependency. That's the relationship type that there is. There's only one relationship type, actually, as far as I understand it. The narcissist is actually a codependent because they're dependent on another person for narcissistic supply. And the codependent is actually entirely selfish because they put their narcissist at the center of their world and can become incredibly selfish tyrants themselves. So it's a really fascinating phenomenon, but that's a phenomenon that we've been taking a keen look at throughout the year of 2024. 2025 isn't going to so much be like this. 2025 is going to call us out of the personal. 2025 is going to call us out of our little mundane, trivial hang-ups and hiccups and health issues. And will there be such things? Yes. But is it really going to be all about that? No. It's going to be leading into a much more creative, mystical, spiritual direction, as well as understanding, really understanding what the world needs is going to be a huge part of our whole species curriculum in the near future. But let's come full circle, back to this full moon, because I went way out, going on into this year, next year, and even a bit into 2026. I think this is a wonderful full moon. The fact that Saturn stations beautifully, I think it's a beautiful T-square between Mercury and Jupiter. I don't know what the other crazy astrologers, why they always interpret squares as meaning a bad thing. Not in this case, not with those planets aligned with the nodes of Uranus. Are you kidding me? This is a brilliant, creative, inventive, eureka, genius type of aspect. Not only does Saturn station in that T-square with Jupiter and Mercury, it's in quintile to the full moon and in quintile to Uranus. So tremendous opportunity for us to lay a ground for meaning. What really matters? And again, I think the eureka moments with the T-square with Mercury and Jupiter is actually going to make it quite clear. It's like, oh yeah, we've been wasting our time with the wrong people doing the wrong things. Why are we doing this? This makes no sense. It makes no money. It's not enjoyable to me. It's like going to be like a bit like getting hit in the head with a brick. But I think it's a good brick. It's a brick that turns us into a savant somehow, or it's just like, oh, okay. No, this is actually the stuff that I'd rather be doing. I actually have this entire course I want to teach. Time to teach the course, time to put it together. There's this school I've been wanting to join. Time to join the school, time to put it together. It's going to be like a brick to the head with that Saturn station. Again, with Mercury square the nodes this weekend, let's be extra careful to listen to one another. I'll be honest, Venus in Capricorn square the nodes, which is exact the 16th, this in and of itself can be a dangerous aspect because people can become heartless towards one another, especially when money and wallets and digits start to fluctuate. And that's exactly what this full moon joined with Uranus is going to do. This is the full moon of illuminating our economic situation, which is what? The Joker, the trickster. You don't know what it's going to be. I'm not a stock market person. That would be a very risky game to play right now, because what's going to go up and what's going to go down, nobody knows right now. But what we can tell you is that this full moon is going to make for a roller coaster ride. And you're probably going to see Dow Jones, it's going to be a little bit like this. I'd be surprised if that were not the case. And I'm very, very curious and interested to know what are going to be the driving factors. What is driving these upsets? Like the U.S. presidency is obviously one of those upsets. Like that's a surprise. This is going to change things. Rug getting ripped under the feet. But it's going to be much more than just that. And we're looking at money. We're looking at downscaling, minimalizing, less is more. That's the wisdom of Uranus and Taurus. The whole transit of Uranus's transit through Taurus has not only been to shake up our entire economic situation, so now food costs 10 times what it did for our parents. It's also to bring us into a deeper, you could say, spiritual revelation that less is more, a wisdom of simplicity, a wisdom of spaciousness. And this is a full moon that can illuminate profound, liberative realizations, similarly to the Buddha, who was meditating under a tree trying to get enlightened, the ascetic path of starving himself to death. And it's not until a little girl brings the Buddha a bowl of rice, Taurus, nurturance, nourishment, sensuality. We live in a world where we have no sensibility. We put down our senses. We say that we shouldn't feel comfortable. Maybe bias as a man. I had a lot of that put onto me, which is why I dress eclectically, by the way. But these are outworn traditions. These things need to be brought to an end. Pluto completes Capricorn officially November 19th. Pluto will never transit Capricorn again in our lifetime. Do something to celebrate the fact that we are about to enter the most pioneering, progressive, revolutionary, and exciting couple of decades of our lives. It is a big deal. I feel very honored to be here as the speakerphone, to be here with you through it all. On that note,
hello. I am temporarily replacing my voice to invite you and remind you to join our next live Q&A circle meeting on Sunday the 17th. Isn't that terrifying? What if I sounded like this?
There, I basically offer mini chart readings where there's an opportunity to take a look at your chart. You can ask questions about evolutionary astrology or what's going on in your life. So it's one part support circle, because we all come together and we hear each other and we support each other. And it's one part educational opportunity where we have the opportunity to see evolutionary astrology demonstrated in real time. Because as people are talking about their experiences and what's going on in their lives, I pull up their chart and I actually circle the parts of their chart that they're speaking to. Like, oh, I had this really challenging situation as a child. I'll circle that as they're saying it. So the Q&A is a really terrific educational opportunity if you're into astrology. It does not mean that you necessarily have to ask questions about your chart if you think you know everything about your birth chart. But on that note, if you think you know everything about your birth chart, I especially encourage you, please get a reading from me. I am wishing the very best to you and your beloveds. We're almost through, and it's going to get a little bit lighter in the weeks to come. Let's pull each other out of the thorn bushes and the ditches. That's where I found myself a few days ago when I was climbing out of this mountain. It's all just down trees at this point. One more thing. I completely forgot to thank all of the donations I received. I mentioned that my last video was the first video to be put out late due to a car accident. And those of you who have followed my videos for a while, you're probably aware that I've been in quite a few accidents, and, you know, it hasn't been a fun last few years. And I was absolutely overwhelmed by the amount of support. Speaking of a Taurus full moon, that really surprised me, Uranus. So thank you. I'll throw up this graphic again, this magical graphic. I think that was a key, but I cannot thank everybody. I wish I could, person by person, shake your hand, give you a hug. These people were incredibly generous. I think people understand just how challenging it is to have probably totaled a car when you live alone in the mountains. So it really, really does make a big difference. It really, really does help support me. And I thank you genuinely so much from the bottom of my heart for your support. And I only wish the same support be returned many, many times back to you and your loved ones. And as always, please do take care I'll be seeing you next time.